Brian Windhorst back here on the Mercedes-Benz Vans phone line. How you doing, Brian?
The Niblets. That's the team I've selected as my live golf team.
Oh,
the
nice.
Oh, is that what it is?
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did not know that. Do you play, Brian?
You'll learn.
Do you get out there? Do you play?
Yeah, but I'm never going to play with you. You sound like a ball of laughs on the golf.
I just want to play and I want to have fun and I just want to get.
Sounds like it.
I just want to get through it, Brian. I just want to get through it, and I come out, and I go to play golf to look at the trees and the sun. This is why I'm not good at golf. And just and just enjoy the quiet, right? I like to hear the birds chirp. I don't need to hear the birds on your radio. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's an old school music reference. Okay. Let's just jump right into it. What is the main storyline for tonight's Game 3 in your estimation, Brian Windhorst?
Well, it's not what everybody's talking about. Everybody's talking about stupid technical fouls. But to me, I don't even think you need to look at the score of the game as the game is going on. I've tried to lobby our fine producers at the television network here to have a running tally of Celtics turnovers, because the only thing that really is is the barometer of whether the Celtics win or lose this game is their turnovers. This postseason, when they turn it over 15 times or less, they're 13-2. When they turn it over 15 times, they're 0-5. That's what happened in Game 2. I don't care about Draymond Green, fake shoving somebody during a dead ball. Steph Curry was good. He had 5 threes. He averages 4.5 threes a game in his playoff career. He's slightly above average. The Warriors scored 107 points in Game 2, and they got 33 points off of the Celtics turnovers, which is the second most in the last 25 years. And the turnovers that the Celtics make are mind-numbing. They just throw the ball to the other team. It has happened throughout the playoffs. It's happened like 2.5 times a series. It's wild. But that, to me, is the storyline. I know it's not as fun as talking about somebody bodying somebody else up on a rebound or a technical foul, but that is what's really going on in this series.
It is it's the Emmett's truth, no question about it. So you know it. Thus, I'm sure the coaching staff of the Celtics know it. How do they rectify it? I mean, or it just is what it is. It's just it's part of the team's DNA, and they just hope it doesn't pop up. I mean, what do you do?
Why don't your children clean their rooms? It's wild. I've been with the Celtics for 6 weeks now, and I think they're a championship team. I mean, I have huge respect for the Warriors, and the thing about it is, like, Steph hasn't even really. He's been good. He hasn't been great. If Steph is great tonight or another game in this series, he will single-handedly beat them. If he has an 8 or 9 3-point game, which obviously he's capable of doing, he'll beat them. But Steph, even though his numbers are good, he's just been okay. He had one incredible quarter in Game 1. Other than that, he's just been Steph. The game has been determined about whether or not the Celtics hand the ball away. And they did this against the Bucks. They did this against the Heat. And, so to me, the Celtics, when they play straight-up half-court defense, they're really hard to beat, almost impossible to beat. They haven't been able to – they've been consistently able to win when they've played just straight-up half-court defense without, handing the ball away. So, to me, that's it. If Jason Tatum doesn't go in there and try to throw a 500-mile-an-hour pass to a guy standing 4 feet from him, if Jaylen Brown doesn't lose the ball in the dribble, which has literally happened about 25 times in the last 3 weeks, I just don't know why he's such a weak dribbler in traffic, but he is, and yet he keeps dribbling into traffic. It's kind of mind-numbing to watch it. And that's what is really probably going to be a factor for the rest of the games in this series.
And then so the Warriors clean up what? If they have something to clean up, what is that?
Well, the Warriors are not getting production from anybody other than Steph. And while it was fun to watch Steph and Jordan Poole hit those shots in the third quarter, something interesting happened, Rich, was that the Warriors stopped running their offense. They stopped their motion offense where everybody's running around in circles and the ball moves to 6 different players and there's an open shot created, because Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson and even Jordan Poole, to a certain extent, weren't hitting shots for a long time. Clay was 4 of 19 in game 2. And so they relied on straight Steph Curry pick and rolls, a very basic play that happens to be very difficult to stop. And, he made some threes and was able to get downhill into the lane and stuff. And the Celtics just didn't defend it that well, but they abandoned the rest of their offense. And I don't think that's going to work over the long haul. Again, they don't get those turnovers. They don't win that game. I know that's what nobody wants to say that. Everybody says, oh, the Warriors are great. They were kicking tail. I'm telling you, in straight half-court offense, they were just okay. And so they got to get back to the Splash Brothers getting it done. And that Clay doesn't have to score 35, but he's got to be a weapon so that they can run their offense and have the Celtics respect them as they move the ball around.
Brian Windhorst here on the Rich Eisen Show, getting set for Game 3 on ABC tonight at 9 Eastern Time. Let's talk about the aftermath of some teams that have already been eliminated. The Miami Heat, Pat Riley, at a press conference saying he has no intention of giving up the reins, that he's still enthusiastic, invigorated, and issued a challenge to some of the players on the roster to play better, and Hero and Lowry. All that said, does that mean they're planning on just running it back, or can they make a big splash coming up in July? What do you think he's planning there in Miami?
Rich, there was an iconic Pat Riley quote in that press conference, and there almost always is at these season-ending things. Like I was unfortunately flying from coast to coast during that. Otherwise, I would have been pulled up with a bowl of popcorn, because he always is amazing. And I don't think people are respecting this iconic Riley quote. He was asked by the media exactly what you just said, which is, can you run it back with this team next year? And Pat said, why not? I run it back with my wife every week.
I didn't hear that one.
Epic.
I know. It's a failure of American media that quote is not being assigned the proper credit.
Well, unpack that for me. What is it? What does that mean, Brian? What does that mean?
It means he's got a wonderful marriage. Pat Riley always hunts star players.
Right.
And in fact, I would argue that a couple of years ago, he kind of, in the wake of LeBron leaving and Dwayne Wade leaving, he had a momentary lapse where he started giving, sort of above average players huge contracts, like Dion Waiters and James Johnson and Tyler Johnson, and the Heat went into a little bit of a tailspin, and then he shook out of that that periodic situation and got refocused and got Jimmy Butler, and now he's got Kyle Lowry, and they have Bam Adebayo. They will hunt whoever becomes available. And so we sit here today. Your next question is, well, who's available?
Right.
Somebody will be coming available, whether it happens in the next 2 weeks or whether it happens in 6 months. Pat Riley will always hunt stars who will want to be in Miami. And they have a good team, and they have good pieces. And they made a little trade that probably nobody, unless you work deeply within the NBA, even remembers. But they made a teeny-weeny little trade right before the deadline buzzer at the trade deadline with the Oklahoma City Thunder that freed them up to trade some draft picks. They couldn't trade draft picks under arcane rules that I won't go into right now. Mm-hmm. But they made this little teeny deal with the Thunder that freed up their ability to trade some picks going forward. So in addition to having some good guys on their team they can trade, they also have draft picks that they can trade now. And so I think they will be hunters. I do not think they will be satisfied with running it back. We'll see what opportunities may open themselves in the next couple of months.
So while I'll just be completely silly here, the tweet that Joel Embiid sent during Game 7 when the Celtics beat the Heat, right? That's
no, Joel Embiid. Rich, right. I'm gonna clue you into a little something.
Go for it.
Joel Embiid's Twitter handle is Troel. Troll. Don't pay attention to stuff that Joel Embiid tweets about stuff like that. No, that has nothing to do with what's going to go on.
Okay, so could you be referring to a star player that's on somebody else's team right now that we're not thinking of, that Miami would start knocking on doors?
I would just say the Heat will be opportunistic, and I'm not sure it's going to happen in the next couple of months. It could happen in a year. But if you're asking me what Pat Riley's goal is, I think Pat Riley knows this is probably not a championship team. He needs another big piece. And what he was expressing was that he's going to stay on the hunt. And so if you're asking me about the Heat, I would say they have some things they can do to make things interesting. Let's just see how it plays out in the next, I would say the next 9 to 12 months.
So then Riley would actually agree with Joel Embiid's tweet that Miami needs another star. Although
if he was being honest, I believe he would, but I doubt he would say that publicly.
Okay. Brian Windhorst here on the Rich Eisen Show. How do you think LeBron is thinking of the future here? Because it sure sounded like Darvin Ham was giving the indication they are running it back. And LeBron said, if we run it back and we're all healthy, we obviously being Anthony Davis and Russ, will be much better. Do you think that's actually the case for the Lakers right now after Ham's press conference, which was also fascinating with Russell Westbrook standing there watching it? Brian.
Well, let's keep in mind they finished 11th in the West last year. So if our bar is we can improve, I think that is accomplishable. Can they improve to being a top 7 or 8, 16? I don't know about that. As they're constantly is they're put together right now. You look around the West and you look at the teams that are ahead of them. There's not a lot of teams ahead of them that are going backsliding, and So, they absolutely can be better if they're healthier. Of course, they were completely decimated by injury this year. Of course, I expect them to be better, but I don't see them as a serious contender in the short term. And so, to me, we'll learn a little bit about LeBron in August because he'll have seen their off season by then, and he has 1 year on his contract. He's 37, and I believe and / assume I don't know this for 100% sure, but I believe the Lakers will offer him a contract extension in August, and he can extend for up to 2 years. There's rules on players who are of that age about how long they can extend for, so he can extend up to 2 years and $100 million. And the Lakers offer it. Will he sign it? That's a question that we'll have to see how it develops. But what Darvin Ham was doing at his press conference, I believe, was just sort of setting a standard for what he wanted Russell Westbrook to do. And because one of the things that happened, Rich, was at the end of the season in a press conference that I thought was just unbelievable for its out-of-touchness, Westbrook blamed the coaching staff and the organization for his failure during the season. Mm-hmm. He said that his role wasn't spelled out and that he wasn't given a chance. And so Darvin Ham came in, and his first order of business was to explain exactly what he expects out of Russell Westbrook. And so now Russell has heard it in June, 3 months before the next season, and so he knows what he's expected to do. He's expected to play excellent defense and sacrifice. And that way, if he doesn't do that, then they can reduce his playing time or bench him or whatever, and he really can't complain about it. But the reason that he's saying that is to answer Westbrook, and also because they know that today – they don't play next season's games today. They play them in months. But today, the Lakers don't have a trade that makes sense for them for Westbrook. So they have to prepare like he's going to be there. If they had a trade, they would execute it. But the reality is that they're probably going to have Westbrook, and so that's the way Darvin is approaching it. I do not think he is implying that he's going to sprinkle some sort of game plan and fairy dust, and all of a sudden Russell Westbrook is going to be an MVP caliber player again. I don't think anybody who looks at the game on a high level believes that, and I have a lot of respect for Darvin Ham.
All right, in my couple of minutes remaining with you, Brian Windhorst, let's finish up the way we started, where you said, hey, this is what people need to be talking about Game 3, and nobody's talking about it, i.e. the Celtics turnovers. So the upcoming offseason, what are we not talking about? What should we be talking about? What are we missing? Is it Zion? Is it what might be going on in Portland with a sale of the team and Damian Lillard? What's on the radar screen for you that might not be for others that we should know about?
Well, in this next 3 weeks, we have a couple of players who have very important decisions with opt-outs in their contracts, namely James Harden and Kyrie Irving. So I would guess that they're going to pick up those options and bypass free agency, but do they pick up those options with contract extensions? Do they pick up those options without contract extensions? What happens to their teams if they're only on 1 year contracts? How are they going to approach that? Mm-hmm. We just saw Sean Marks, the general manager of the Nets, come out in a press conference a couple of weeks ago and basically say without saying that Kyrie was going to have a different level of accountability, and he heard that, I'm sure, and now has to react to that by making his decision on his contract. So, there's quite a few decisions, and there's also some other players like Brad Beal, who has an option in his contract. Now, the indications are all that Brad is going to, remain with the Wizards, but he has not picked it up yet. He has not worked out a contract yet. So I'm waiting to hear, when you hear who the top free agents are, people are like, oh, well, Zach LaVine and this guy and that guy. Nobody is saying Bradley Beal, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden. Let's wait until those options get picked up. And when those get picked up, then we'll take them off the board. But are they going to be on 1-year contracts? Are they going to be on 4-year contracts? That's what no one's talking about right now. Maybe there's going to be drama. Maybe there won't be.
And speaking of drama, is the Utah drama going to be, with Spider, Mitchell, and Gobert and everything else that played there with Quinn Snyder's departure? Does that get smoothed over? What happens in Utah, do you think?
If Utah played in one of the big markets, this would be a talking point on ESPN every single day. Because they had the number 1 overall seed in last year's playoffs, and then their team president is gone, and then the next year their highly successful coach is gone, and they have 2 all-star players who have a contentious relationship, and the team is going the wrong direction. And trust me, there's a bunch of teams out there keeping a very close eye on how that goes, but you don't have to have incredible insight to deduce that organization, which was very strong not too long ago, is going in the wrong direction, and the pieces on it could be very interesting to other people, starting with Quinn Snyder. Somebody will hire that guy to coach in a short time frame.
Brian, thanks for the call. Appreciate it. Look for my call again before draft, before free agency, during it, all the time. Really appreciate it. Love watching you on TV.
I'll be in group 16A there, Rich.
Okay, very good. And I'll see you in that grouping. I'll be right behind you, telling you to hurry. Thanks for the call. Brian Windhorst, everybody. At Windhorst, ESPN. Fantastic. Brian Windhorst and the Hoop Collective, there, a great podcast as well. Windhorst Everyone knows it's windy. Hey, you watched all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Watch more right here.